real quick story about Beauty and the Beast. So, yeah, like we have our early shows right now. Actually, Sarah had to work tonight for the openers. Up until Monday or Tuesday, literally like Friday and Saturday were completely sold out already. They've been sold out for like a week.
Jeez.
Every show we had. So my manager decides to put the movie schedule together for the weekend. He added 7 extra screenings per day.
Fuck.
Wow.
Just of that movie.
Holy shit.
So we were almost going to walk into a situation where all we had to do was turn away people at the door who didn't have tickets. So we'd have to deal with them, but we would barely have to sell anything. We wouldn't have people standing in line for tickets, etc. And so now he's added this element back in where we got to deal with hundreds of people, actually probably an additional like 1,000 people coming to see this frickin' movie every day. And the one thing that I was really looking forward to the most was all the disappointed looks on the kids' faces when they got there and they realized that their dumb parents didn't get tickets in advance for the biggest kids movie of the year. And I just wanted to watch all the annoying parents get so outraged over, what do you mean it's sold out? This is a concept unbeknownst to me, and I blame you for having limited quantities of a service to give away at any given time. And just watch their dumb little faces tear up and be sad. And what do you mean we can't go? Like, I don't know, let's go to Denny's. Something like that.
That's where they would go.
Because it's right, there's one like right next door. And like basically anyone walking in the door at any moment, if you're here for Beauty and the Beast and don't already have tickets, we're sold out, I'm sorry. He took that away from me.
Damn. Now, I would be real upset.
All the crying faces. All of them.
You could have kept a tally.
You could have wore a GoPro. Fuck.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Bry Guy and his Super Friends, where we will do our best to talk about Kong's Skull Island before the show spirals out of control into an abundance of insults, name-calling, and yo mama jokes.
Stepping in, I'm your host, Brian Labick, and joining me for this one-way ticket to Skull Island is someone who can hopefully help me keep the peace this episode, and you heard him in the intro, Josh Zorch.
I'm back, finally.
And representing Team Kong, we have Mike Bradley.
You're goddamn right I'm representing Team Kong.
And of course, that means we got Ian Leidick representing Team Godzilla.
Hey, guys.
Oh, he brings it back again. I thought you retired that.
There it is.
Hey guys, how you
It's
doing?
always, it's like motions going through my head, and I'm just thinking, I'm like...
That was it? A little anticlimactic there. All right, so just to start the show, as I've been doing the last couple of weeks, I want to remind everyone that we're steadily approaching 100, the 100th episode of the show. So my idea for that is to hopefully get some fan interaction for that episode in the form of topic suggestions, questions you guys might have for us. So if there's anything you want us to talk about, anything you want to ask us, you can hit us up and we'll try to do our best to work it in the show somehow. So if you want to talk to us, there's a few new ways to get in touch with us. You can email us at bryguysuperfriends@gmail.com, or you can tweet us at bgsuperfriends on Twitter. And the most active place for us to go, or, well, for you to get to us, I guess, is the Facebook page. So you can keep that in mind over the next month or two, and we'll see. I guess now it's probably a month and a half, maybe a month by the time we get to the 100th. But yeah, any of the suggestions you guys might have for us, hit us up on one of those. So far, I think we've gotten no feedback, so this is starting off really great.
But that leaves it open for any fan to have a better chance of getting their questions addressed.
That is true. Either that or we're all going to have to start cashing in some favors to see if we can get anyone to give us something to work with. So, now to this episode, if you haven't guessed from the intro, we will be doing another movie review. So this week we'll be talking about Kong Skull Island, which will be along with the Godzilla movie from 2014 and the upcoming Godzilla King of Monsters that will be out in 2019. These will all be part of Legendary's MonsterVerse, which I think is what they're calling it, and which will lead to a Godzilla vs. King Kong movie in 2020. So over the last few weeks, I think Kong and Godzilla have come up at different points in our discussions. We always seem to get stuck with the King Kong versus Godzilla debate. Bradley and Ian have definitely been a part of those. So I'm sure we'll be getting into that during this episode. Hopefully Mike will make it out of that discussion alive. But before we get there, I do want to make sure we cover the movie at hand. And just for us to be able to talk about the movie all that we want to, cover everything that we need to, it'll be easier for me to throw out the spoiler alert now. So if you haven't seen Kong Skull Island yet, you can pause this, come back to us after seeing the movie. Or if you don't mind spoilers, feel free to listen on. We're going to go through all the details of the film. So this is your final warning. We'll be talking spoilers for Kong Skull Island.
Wee-oo, spoiler! Wee-oo, spoiler! Something like that.
All right, so we're in the spoiler territory. We're going to talk about this movie as much as we want to, as any of the details we want to cover. So I think maybe just to get us started, and we'll go to specifics from there, we'll just try to give overall thoughts of the movie. If you want to talk specifics during that, that's cool, but does anybody... Maybe we'll start with Mike. Overall thoughts on the movie.
Well, I'll pose a question to everybody here on that. Was there a character you gave a shit about in this movie? Josh, go. That's a no. Ian, go.
If we're simply starting in like a lightning round robin type thing, I see your point. Actually, I would say if anybody in the end, John C. Reilly.
Yes. Ian, go.
If I had to pick one, yes, him.
Okay.
San.
What did you say?
San.
I don't even know who that is.
Racist.
Was that a person?
That was the nice Korean lady that was with them.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
The scientist?
She had a great story. You guys should have paid attention.
Is there like a manga book we haven't read that you could direct us to that tells her story?
It's
one
called
of those things?
GoshiBanushiUSA.com. It came out last year when they were developing the movie. It was based on the early Kong storyboards.
It really, Brian, I see it now. It is impossible to tell if it's completely just getting pulled out of his butt at any given moment.
Someone somewhere is listening to this, and they're going to look that up and say, what the fuck? Ian was totally full of shit.
You mean gibberish.gibberish.com? They're going to look it up.
Given the title of kind of like the vague Japanese-ish sounding words that you used, are you now the racist? Is that how that works?
I think so.
I would agree. I think,
yes.
right? Okay, Brian?
Nobody. That was going to be one of my complaints.
Okay.
That was my biggest issue with the movie, is I did not feel that character development focused enough on anybody specifically. It jumped all over the damn place, and you have an actor like Tom Hiddleston, you have a Samuel L. Jackson, you have a John C. Reilly, you have these talented people there, and you jump all over the damn place and don't give enough time to one of them. That's all they had to do to make this a better movie, is give us a central human character, and this becomes a much better movie. I would say
actually, that... I have a question, I guess, maybe for you guys, too. Without looking at IMDb, can you name any characters' names?
I already have it up, so I'm going to recuse myself.
That's very honest of you.
Because I walked out of there not remembering anyone's fucking name. And that's a terrible way to set up your characters.
Samuel L. Jackson was Colonel something.
The one guy, I want to say, was it not Jackson? The guy that they went to go look for, that was already dead, but they didn't know it yet.
Oh yeah.
With the kid.
I
remember the kid's name. That was Billy.
Billy.
He wasn't even in the fucking movie, and I remember that kid's name.
Because was it like Jackson or something? Jax, something like that.
Ian,
how wrong am I?
It's not like I can't tell. It's like
the guy that was trapped up on the hill.
No, I know, but they all have just first names.
It was Toby Kebbell's character.
Yeah.
Oh, Jack Chapman.
Chapman.
Yeah, that's
Chappie. Oh, Chappie, no! Chappie's dead, guys!
So I had the Jack part kind of correct. That's why that was in my mind.
Yeah.
He also played Kong.
Yeah, I saw that. He did the motion capture for it.
Wait, Toby Kebbell did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, cool.
Which was a big step up for him, both in like his human character portrayal, because I forgot that was the actor who was Doctor Doom in the recent Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
And he did much better in this.
Yeah, he had stuff to work, well, a little bit more to work with.
Yeah.
Still have not seen that Fantastic Four.
Oh, we gotta schedule that.
I know. I think about it all the time, and then like just scheduling wise to get everybody to sit down and watch it seems like a nightmare. But it's
Right before
yeah,
the
we
hype.
definitely have to do that.
People are not going to be jumping at that opportunity.
If we do it for the podcast, I think it would.
Oh yeah.
I
sit-
think if
I
we
would
like
sit through
live
it again.
record a podcast while watching it.
Especially like with someone who hasn't seen it yet. Oh yes, I will.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we could definitely do that. I would live record a podcast watching it. That would be fun. That might get me to watch it. Yeah.
So to digress, yay Toby Kebbell.
Okay, yes.
Mike, you got anything? You were on the characters. You got anything else for the characters, or you want to spin off to something else?
I mean, I think I said my piece on that because there's not a whole hell of a lot to say about the characters.
Yeah.
If you can waste Tom Hiddleston, and not to mention Tom Hiddleston playing a fairly cool character. Like, the guy had
Yeah.
a lot of cool shit going on about him, and then they're just like, we're not really going to let you see any of that. So,
Yeah.
That's
Peace.
a good point.
it just, I don't know. I'll
All right, let's
pass it
spin
along
off.
because I'm just...
Yeah, we'll spin off to Josh. Just sort of overall thoughts of the movie.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
So this was my number 7 on the 2017 anticipation list, and I wouldn't say it's not going to end up on my disappointments list. I didn't hate it. Overall impression, it was a good popcorn flick. It was absolutely entertaining, and it was a good way to, spend 2 hours. Not upset about that whatsoever. But yeah, it seems like they had a lot of missed filmmaking opportunities, that were probably low-hanging fruit as well. Not everything has to be the best movie you're going to see until you go see something 2 weeks later that is then the best movie you're ever going to see. Not everything has to be that, but yeah, it just seemed like, some of the easy things that we've touched on already, like I said, low-hanging fruit that, hashtag missed opportunities.
On the low-hanging fruit, Josh, I would comment that they have a format for King Kong already out there. If you're going to reboot a King Kong franchise, there's a very simple format to making an excellent movie out of it. Humanize the monkey. It's an ape, but humanize it in some way, and all of a sudden, the Naomi Watts Jack Black version was pretty damn good as a movie. It wasn't quite as entertaining as this one was with all that happened. It was still entertaining as a movie, but it came off as a very good movie. And that format, they just followed the same format from the original, basically, where you actually feel bad for King Kong at the end of the movie when he's killed. It's the same thing, where I understand why they didn't kill him in this one, so they didn't need to humanize him as much because they want their Godzilla versus King Kong eventually. So it forces them down a different path, but at the same time, you had 2 or 3 scenes with Kong and Brie Larson's character where they could have explored that a little bit, and they didn't.
True. At the same time, I'm glad that they didn't, other than like one particular moment that really didn't last more than, 30 seconds. I'm glad that they didn't just pick little bitty things and like carbon copy them from the traditional Kong story. I appreciated that this was an adventure story. This was not as much the, let's go to Skull Island and we don't really know what's there, and then we find Kong and we're gonna trap him and bring him back to civilization, and then he wreaks havoc. It was just an adventure story that happened to, with monsters and big beasts that happened to include King Kong. So I did appreciate that about it, that it tried to be something a little bit different. I guess, that's mostly my piece on it. Ian, what do you got?
So my biggest issue with this movie is there's one very simple thing you do when you make a monster movie. You don't show the monster a minute in. They fucked that up. You don't start off with full Kong.
I agree.
I was surprised.
I thought it was a terrible choice. And then just like the writing I didn't enjoy. There were so many times where they tell a joke and they were like holding for laughter, but it wasn't funny. Like you don't hold for a laugh there. It just like really threw off the pacing of the movie, I think, because they kept holding for it and it was never coming from anyone in that audience I was in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do
there
think
was not laughs.
the writing suffers.
The other big thing is like, it's basically a Vietnam movie and Kong was like the C story of Kong Skull Island.
Okay, I'm with you.
I mean, I think that comes back to the whole terrible writing issue.
Yeah, it does. I mean, Mike said at the beginning with like how they didn't humanize the characters or give you anyone to care about. They didn't make you care about anything. There was nothing like that they were able to put pen to paper and be like, this is our movie. They just threw a bunch of ideas together and like, fuck it, put Hiddleston and Jackson in it. We got a fucking universe to make.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they tried really hard to make you hate Samuel L. Jackson there, and it frustrated me, and I really hated the character, but not because of the character. I hated the character because it was so obvious from the first moment you see the scowl on his face the first time you see him, and it's just like, okay, so there's our villain in this movie, and it's not going to work.
He's gonna have the fatal flaws. He's gonna make the bad decisions for the quest for constant affirmation of the Vietnam War and his loss. What they created for him was way too archetypal.
Mm-hmm. What really got me though, I don't know if anyone else was thinking this, but towards the end when he's thinking about killing Kong, all I could think of was, Kong, yell out Martha, and he won't kill you. That's all he had to do. Humanize himself by saying Martha. Prove he had a mother.
You know what I was actually thinking? The moment where, after he, succumbs to the lake of fire and he is passed out for a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
there's that shot from behind Samuel L. Jackson looking at the face of Kong. I don't know if it's like one of the original tree houses of horror, but it's like a really, really old early Simpsons episode where it's basically Homer as King Kong. It's the King Kong story where Mr. Burns is like the Jack Black type character and they end up finding Kong that's Homer and they have him passed out and Smithers and Mr. Burns are standing right in front of Homer's mouth, and you think he's passed out, and the two of them are talking, and then just with one quick chomp, he eats Smithers and he disappears. but he stays like passed out. Oh. And then Mr. Burns just Mr. Burns just like turns around and just like shrugs his shoulders and says, "Oh."
Yeah.
I was kind of waiting for him to eat Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, I can hear like the same sound that made when that show was on. It's just like, "Whoa."
Yes, that's it. That's it.
Just gone.
Like it had that exact framing and that exact look.
Yeah, I think Ian, more to your point about the Martha storyline and twist, quote unquote twist, I fully expect that.
The name of Brie Larson's character.
Yeah, for all we know. Yeah, we can't remember her name. No, I fully expect something like that for Kong and Godzilla. Like when we get to that movie, that's going to be like team up time.
I hope.
Or just like, my mom's dead, so is mine, let's be buddies, or something.
Oh god, if all this arguing's over nothing and they just fight with each other instead of against each other.
Oh, you know it's gonna happen. It's gonna follow the exact plot of Batman v Superman, because you can't have a winner in that scenario, because you're gonna piss off half of your fan base.
Well,
you're not gonna want either of those characters' franchises to be over after 2 movies. And yeah, it's going to be either maybe not necessarily that it might be, friend of enemy of my enemy is my friend. And like at the end they're not buddies, but whatever it is, like Mothra or whatever other thing that they have to turn their attention to, because if they don't, then maybe they'll both die
Yeah.
So they have to do it just for survival purposes. But yeah, it seems like it's going to be very easy to telegraph.
Yeah.
I agree, but I still hope that it goes down. And it needs to go down. There needs to be a clear winner. They can redo either one of these franchises. Sure, in this movie they say, Kong is the last of his kind, and Godzilla is the only Godzilla as far as we know, but either one of those, they could just, retcon it and be like, oh, he found a She-Kong, or, oh, there's another Godzilla that's been hidden underneath and only one awakens every whatever year, however many years, something like that. They can say whatever the hell they
Hollow
want.
Earth theory, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I could see that, but I don't think they'll do that, but yeah, it's a possibility.
yeah, I'm just saying, if they wanted to continue the franchises after, instead of just,
Maybe they'll start dating, and they'll have, an interspecies baby.
You mean like AVP Requiem, where we got the mix?
Yeah, that'd be perfect for this. I'd watch them fuck.
And you just made it weird. It was fine up until then.
Okay, but to be
Kongzilla,
fair,
man.
there were 2 or 3 shots of Kong, both from the back and front, that it was completely obvious that certain anatomy should have been present in those shots, that they just completely were like, nope, we're not going to do that.
Dude, his dick would
should
be
have been
one of those.
Josh, I was going to say, are you actually complaining right now, Josh, that we didn't get 10-story junk on the big screen?
Full dong, dude. Full dong.
It's not just that, but the shots from the shots from the back, you would absolutely have Kong butthole.
Oh, so
Are you also complaining that? So you're also complaining that we didn't have a crater-sized butthole on screen.
If they want us to believe that people somehow found this ginormous ape creature,
they should make it not child-friendly.
Just 100% either commit or don't.
Mm-hmm.
Toby Kebbell didn't want to motion capture that.
I'm sorry, he's not a professional.
Exactly.
They didn't call me. I don't know what to say.
They should have.
Well, I guess if they ever go atomically correct Kong, Josh can be the first phone call they make.
I would have been Toby Kebbell's ape butt double.
If it was a mandrill instead of a gorilla, that would be interesting. Because then it would have to have a big, giant red butt. It would have to, because mandrills have big, giant red butts. So it would,
We can only hope for the sequel.
No, I'm not hoping for it. I'm just saying that might give credence to your argument. I'm just...
Mike, I'll be sure to pass along your thoughts to the studio heads at is that Warner Brothers?
The studio heads that don't call Josh.
Hey, I can find a Twitter feed.
All right, so back to the movie, since we're getting way too sidetracked already.
Romano's not even here to do it.
I know.
Well, Brian, what did you think? You kind of chimed in, but what were your overall impressions of it as a whole?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in line with you guys. I think, to me, the weakest part was the characters. If I walk out of a movie not remembering who the hell people were, then that's a very bad sign. I thought they did a good job with Kong. I'm not saying, I still had a little bit of a hard time caring about Kong, but I think as far as, the action sequences and how he fought, I thought was good. And there's that one point in the movie when they want you to start caring for Kong, which is when Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson are pretty much face to face with Kong, and she touches him, and then he goes away, and then all of a sudden we have to save Kong. That twist for me was completely unearned. That all of a sudden they want to go back and save him. That was like a turn on a dime for no apparent fucking reason.
Because he didn't kill them.
Right, if that's all they're going by, what the fuck? That's stupid. I wanted more from that. You know they're going to save him. I expected more a believable way, I guess, for them to change their mind and try to go back to save him.
Because, did they even demonstrate by then that he, fought the Skullwalkers? He only helped save that random, weird creature with the, helicopter by then, right?
I think.
So, like, they didn't even know that, like, Steve Brule was correct in saying that Godzilla was protecting these people.
Yeah.
They were just going with the crazy man who's been alive since World War II on an island where no one can talk, but hasn't lost his ability to speak English.
Yeah. Yeah, the exposition machine that was John C. Reilly. Yeah, he had a lot of roles. He was basically filling in gaps in the story that no one asked for, and then he tried to be comic relief, which was may or may not be funny to some people.
That actually worked on me. I actually really enjoyed his character for that purpose. But yeah, I did find it odd that he was there for almost 30 years, and yeah, not even with like speaking a different language, but almost with a verbal languageless culture.
Yeah.
And he just rolls up after like you would almost forget unless you talked out loud to yourself all the time.
Which I think you're led to believe he does.
Probably. There's definitely kind of like a Wilson situation going on there. But
I also think he talks to them. Like, he speaks to them and they understand him, but they don't speak back. I mean, I don't want to get that far into that part of this because it's just not worth it. But at the same time, I do think because he's talking to them, he'd be fine.
Yeah.
The weird thing with John C. Reilly, though, is I was wondering this, like, because he makes the Cubs thing about them winning. Did they write this before the Cubs won and then kept that joke in?
No.
You know?
I think they definitely put that in there because the Cubs won.
It felt weird to have it in there when the Cubs did win.
And
then it felt like they were just too late on it. Like, fucking rewrite it.
Was that 2015 or 2016? Was that just this past year?
This past October that happened.
So yeah, you wonder, like, was there like some quick rewriting, or as they were finishing up some like post-production, they're like, hey, we need to do some pickups. John, can you and like 3 people come and stand in a studio real quick so we can make a joke?
Yeah, and then they had to like edit in some Wrigley Field shit in his like little battle boat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. It's like, oh, he needs to be from Chicago, guys.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Sure.
Yeah, and I feel bad. Like, I feel like we do this sometimes with movies where, like, it's not that I didn't enjoy it, but if you have to analyze it, you end up, like, really ripping it apart more than you think you would have before you start talking about it.
I mean, I think Brian highlighted the best parts. You know,
what?
like, the action sequences with Kong and the, whatever they were, the
creatures, skull crushers?
You call them whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly. That was pretty cool. The action sequences throughout the whole film were, you know, with Kong were pretty awesome. It's just, you didn't give a damn about any of the rest of what was going on.
Well, let's spin that off into, what did you guys think of the director? Because this guy, I had to look him up because I didn't know who this was. Jordan I don't even say how to, VOGT Roberts. Apparently has done a lot of TV and mostly indie movies, and then they hand him this for his first blockbuster to make. So this is like his first big movie. What did you guys think of his directorial style, I guess, what he did with this movie?
Like, it looks pretty, but, like, I don't know if I want to blame him for, like, the poor writing and stuff, but, I mean, the pacing was off because of the writing, but I think it looked pretty. I don't know how much credit I even want to give him for that, though.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, too.
Yeah, that could have also been affected by editors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Go ahead, Josh.
Hard to tell. Yeah, it's hard to tell. I mean, sometimes you're like, oh, well, we'll forgive, like we said it earlier, like, we'll forgive the actors in Fantastic Four because of the script they were given and the limitations that were put on them. You know, they did the best they could with things. You know, sometimes you think of that with the director, but at some point, it just feels like everyone along the way, there was just like a pinch of something missing from each area. So you can't really put your particular finger on it. And I think that's why it might feel overall a little lackluster to all of us.
Yeah.
But like I said, it was very entertaining. But, I was hoping, when you got that spider scene in like the bamboo forest area part, I thought that was really cool. And I thought they were getting ready to set a tone where, you know, similar to what you think of with King Kong, where you're going to be on this island full of giant creatures and oversized things, like in the Peter Jackson King Kong, when they or end up fighting the giant insects in like the base of that ravine, that quarry area, you think that's going to be an obstacle for them the whole time. And then even when Chapman encounters the like log insect thing that comes to life, like that was cool for a second, and then there's like no interaction, the thing runs away because you realize, oh, the reason he ran away is because the bad creature was behind him the whole time, and now he's it's like they tease that was going to be part of it, which if they had kept doing it, I would have been much more intrigued. If there was more obstacles of the island and this uninhabited place, this thing they don't know that they had to deal with, I think I would have enjoyed it a bit more. And then I think they just spent like way too much time fixing up the boat. And
yeah, because honestly, I think, sort of for me, is they had to get to the north side of the island in like 3 days? Right?
Yeah.
Or something like that. So if they are already encountering these other huge entire like monsters and insects shit, why is no one afraid to go to sleep? Like, I don't remember them setting up camp and like worrying about being attacked at night. They just just find them the next day.
Setting watchers.
Yeah.
John C. Reilly does mention it. You don't want to be out there at night.
Yeah, but we never see what they do at night.
But why? Right.
They're marching. To find Chappie. They don't know if Chappie's dead. I don't know if you picked up on that.
You don't see what
Chappie's
they do
alive.
at night because they didn't have an answer for what they were going to do at night.
Right. Again, that comes back to poor writings, that there's supposed to be setups and payoffs. They set up a lot of stuff, and they never paid it off, and that becomes glaringly obvious when you go back and think about it.
That's the best example of that, and that's a good point. Best example of that, the frickin' ants. They went through that whole thing about, what does he say? Like, they look like little bears or something? Whatever joke he makes. He's like, the reffing ants. Like, that. But you never see the ants.
Yeah, why bring that up at all if you're not going to see them?
Right.
Yeah. They don't, not even that they don't pose like an obstacle, but like, yeah, you never see them at all for any reason. So, yeah, there was like this setup with no payoff so many times.
I think that's like part of the whole thing with, like I said, Kong being like the C story. I think if they would have focused more on them actually getting to the North Place and focused on these things with the creatures, it would have been a good movie, and even make Kong the fucking D story just to get something, like something I want to watch out of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I would say I'd say directing, editing, everything as a whole for this movie. I love the soundtrack. I feel like I could listen to the soundtrack to this movie, but I don't remember a scene in the movie where the song they were playing felt in place. Like, because I know Paranoid comes on
just so they could provide a soundtrack to the movie.
Right. Yeah, like Paranoid comes on when they're in the chopper or something like that, and I'm like, all right, I don't get why they're
Magic
playing
Carpet
Paranoid,
Ride.
but Paranoid, all right.
Magic Carpet Ride would have been a much better choice right there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it just didn't make sense to me. It's like, friggin' A, Sabbath, but why Sabbath? I don't get it. Like, I mean, even if they had gone like War Pigs instead of Paranoid, it may have made more sense, but
Good point.
it's just... I'm probably going to at least get the soundtrack on my Spotify and have it sitting there and just listen to it every now and then, because it's a good mix of songs. But
that's assuming,
I don't know who told them where to put it.
I'm wondering if you look for the soundtrack and it's just like the orchestral stuff and not actually all the songs that were played in the movie.
They released the soundtrack of, yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, I haven't looked, but
Neither
I'm
have
wondering
I.
if they actually release something like that.
Well, just get Paranoid in this, like a couple CCR albums, and you got the whole soundtrack.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
It seemed to be kind of, maybe I'm misremembering or just envisioning, like it cast this spell on me, but it did seem to be pretty CCR heavy.
There were 4 songs from CCR.
Seriously?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Holy
Okay,
crap.
that's why.
CCR has a very Vietnam feel to some directors and editors and everything, and they do have that sound, but there's plenty of Hendrix songs and Sabbath songs and things like that you can use. They're out there. You don't have to just stick with 4 like that are played during the movie and not just like on the soundtrack.
I know. It was absurd. What
Wow,
really
I didn't
pissed me
even
off the
realize
most
it
with
when
the
it was
soundtrack,
happening.
Though, is they play David Bowie, but you can barely fucking hear it. That pissed me off
Really?
to no end.
When did they
Yeah.
play David Bowie? I didn't even notice.
When they're in the, like, boat thing, the one kid's like, when he's talking to John C. Reilly, and John C's like, this is music now? He's like, yeah, man, that's a style. He's playing, the
Ziggy.
Spider-Man to Mars. Yeah, Ziggy Stardust.
Ziggy,
Okay.
You
yeah.
barely fucking hear it. I was pissed.
Yeah. I didn't
I want
even
my money
notice.
back.
The second or third time that I was, because I saw it on Sunday. So this week at work, when I would go in after the movie was done and I would see the credits, that's the first time that I saw listed in the credits Ziggy Stardust in the soundtrack. I had the same reaction. I'm like, when the frick was Ziggy Stardust playing? And you totally miss it.
Well, at least Ian was paying attention.
Yeah, I was going to say,
They're
I
not
had
a real
no
Bowie
clue
kid.
that it even happened.
Sort of swinging back to like the director style and stuff like that. I think I don't know, maybe it's just coming from indie work or whatever, but I feel like he tried to be really artsy with some of the shots. Like some of the shots, I think if you just get a picture or a still frame of them, they look really good. But I don't know why the movie overall just didn't sit well with me as far as director style. Like the one shot of like the helicopters seeing Kong in the distance in the sunset, that's a cool shot. I would like a picture of that shot. And some other shots with Kong in them, in the frame, just seeing his size and how they framed it in the shot and everything like that, I thought were really cool. But the movie itself, and then like, I don't know, maybe it's just because I play a lot of video games, but the first person gunshots stood out to me whenever they did them. I don't know if it kind of just pulled me out of the movie, but
I don't think I noticed.
Yeah, I was going to say, what first-person gunshots are you talking about? I don't
there's
even
at
remember
least
that.
3 that I can think of, I think.
Okay.
Wow.
There's underneath the spider. They follow the one guy that had the AK-47. He's looking up at the spider, and it looks like a GoPro is on the top of the AK-47.
Oh, okay.
And I think there's 1 or 2 with people looking down the M16s, where you just see like the iron sights looking at something as they're trying to shoot.
Huh. It just seemed out of place given everything else.
Yeah, I get, like, again, I think he's going for that kind of like visual style, but to me, it just kind of pulled me out of it. Like,
I think with
like
that
they're
too,
doing it just because they can type of thing. Not that it had a reason, just because they can do shots like that.
It plays on the whole, like, they're showing too much of the monster then when you're getting that first point of view. You're not feeling the fear they're fearing of, like, having this creature just coming at them.
Yeah, reaction
kinda
shots
clearly
would have
see
worked
it,
better.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know why I'm just thinking about this now. I did make a note of this, and I don't know where I'm going to bring it up later, but now seems like good enough time. When they go to the graveyard of the Kongs, and they start fighting the Skullcrawlers, all of a sudden, a dude with a flamethrower comes out of nowhere. Because I looked at Eric, like, where the fuck did this guy come from? They never established that he's there, and all of a sudden he has a propane tank on his back ready to roast some motherfuckers.
Which seems like it would have come in
nowhere.
handy before.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Burn down the jungle.
All information that would have been valuable yesterday.
What I loved about that, too, is that, like, one dude just dropped a bunch of stuff labeled toxic gas.
Yeah.
Like, out of fucking nowhere. He just had toxic gas.
You know
why are you carrying that around?
We need the obligatory scene of Tom Hiddleston looking like a badass. Let's give him a sword for no reason, put on a gas mask, and just have him go through and just flail around.
My
That is
friend pointed
exactly
this out
what happened.
afterwards. Like, apparently that was the 3D scene. We didn't see it in 3D. That was like what that was for.
Oh, okay.
That
so
was the
gas
only
comes out of
3D
screen.
scene.
The only 3D.
That was the one they did 3D for. That whole fucking shit.
It definitely looked so out of place because it was the one thing. Now, okay, here I will give them a good credit. That was the only scene that I will absolutely, like, obviously the whole thing was green screen.
Oh yeah,
All of it. They said, Tom, run from here to there, 20 feet away, swing around, move, and we'll CG in the crap that you're killing as you go.
Don't even
Fine.
look like you know what you're doing with a sword. Just flail about.
Exactly. But as a success in everything else, all the on-location shooting that they did, anything else that they had to superimpose looked very good.
Yeah.
They used the landscapes and the backgrounds of, I think they shot a lot in Hawaii. Where they shot, they did utilize that very well, I thought.
Yeah, I will say, yeah, I think the environment looked cool.
The cinematography was well, the way they laid everything out, the big sweeping, aerial shots, that they were good. I I'm trying to really dig and find things.
I know we've sort of been beating the characters up, but out of the characters that we can't remember, did anyone have like a favorite character that they liked?
Bill Randa.
Yeah,
this is going to be some like a temp worker that was in the building, or no, Bill Randa. I think was John Goodman, right?
It was John Goodman. Yes.
Yeah.
I liked him. He was like kind of cool until like he was like apologizing for bringing them to the island, kind of. He was like, "You just got to get us home with proof," and I'm like, "No, the fuck are you, John? Be like more badass about this."
Yeah, he was utterly wasted in this movie too.
Yeah, quite.
I expected more from John Goodman.
Mm-hmm.
I did too. I thought especially from the trailers, I thought like that struggle, so to speak, between him and Samuel L. Jackson was going to persist a lot more.
Yeah.
Not only longer, not just because he ends up dying, but just more intensely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. Josh, Mike, you guys have a character that stuck out to you? One way or the other?
No.
Not Landsat Steve?
That's my sum up. Go ahead, Josh.
Lance, oh.
That was the guy that did what it like sit on the porch and then got murdered.
Oh, one of the scientists.
Yeah, with the gun.
I just looked him up, yeah. That's the only way I could ever figure out who the frick you're talking
I love
about.
how Ian's probably just rattling off people from IMDb. He probably doesn't
Hey,
even know what
He's
he's talking
just
about.
scrolling to the bottom
He
of
is.
the list on IMDb. Like, who's at the bottom here?
Hey, he's on the page before you click full cast.
Oh,
He made it to the first page, which means out of
Wow.
like the first 20 people listed, he's popular enough on IMDb that he made the cut.
his name is Landsat Steve.
15th build.
I think in terms of any one character, yeah, I think, I mean, it's gotta be John C. Reilly. He was, even though he was, as you said, the exposition, Basil Exposition in this movie, he was the most fleshed out. And he was the most quirky. He was the one that, with his family background, and they give him that ending scene when he goes home. You're right, like I hate to say it, he's like the only one you could possibly have any connection to in the end. So, I mean, I kind of want to see like, what happens with the team next, and where do they go, and what do they discover? Like, again, it's like a fun adventure story, and it'll be entertaining along the way, but that's all it'll be, and that's fine.
Yeah, I was trying to think of my favorite character. I think the more I thought about it, I think I'm more in line with you, Josh. I think as much as John C. Reilly was just telling us what we needed to hear, he did have the most complete story out of anybody.
Oh, yes.
Even his flashback scene, like when he first crashes on the island, I actually liked that little scene that they put in there.
Yeah.
That scene had me actually feeling good about the prospects of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, okay, so that's how John C. Reilly's character, because, you see the previews, and you're like, how's he going to end up there? Okay,
right.
Now we have an answer to that. But the problem, I'll tell you both, that you're having with your favorite character thing here is you got John C. Reilly. You don't have
Toby
whatever
Kebbell.
no, I'm saying whatever the fuck that guy's name was, the character. What was the character's name?
Hank
Right.
Marlowe.
Hank Marlowe. Right, there you go.
Lieutenant Hank Marlowe, 38th Airborne.
There you go.
Wow.
It's just, and it goes back to, I'm not as polite as Josh. I will destroy this movie because of the character development problems.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Even the most developed character in this movie, the only person that could tell us his name is the one that's looking at it on his screen. So...
Yeah, he's not far and away the best character. I think he's the best of the worst. That's the way I'm looking at it.
If you have
That's
to
fair.
pick one.
Because you're right. Like, I can't remember any of these people's names, and that's a problem. But if I can remember the actor's name, at least that gives me somebody to point to and say, yep, that one.
True.
But I think it's also worth mentioning how wasted Brie Larson is in this movie,
Right?
who is a top billed cast member.
Third.
Okay, top 3. She's in there. She's up there.
I was just clarifying, letting everyone know she was third build.
It's still, like, she did great up until they got to the island.
Yeah.
Like, the interaction and everything, and then they get to the island where she's supposed to be the girl, and Kong is Kong, and then nothing really ever progresses there, and she just kind of gets lost on the island.
See, again, I'm glad, though, that they didn't do that part, just because it would have felt so like, they have nothing original to do. But you're right. In terms of usefulness, as a member of a team who wants to survive, as a member of a team who needs to fight against things to survive, yeah, it's like, was there ever any it was constantly like, Tom Hiddleston, get behind me, Bree.
Yeah.
I've got a sword and a gun.
That's exactly what it was.
Went up
she took pictures and then she looked bewildered a lot of the time. And that was it.
Like, they didn't know what to do with her. And is it just me, or did it seem like at certain points they had a lot more expendable army guys who weren't like your main 3 or 4 that would just like keep showing up out of nowhere?
Hence the flamethrower guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The flamethrower guy. Definitely.
Because I think at one point they went from 12 helicopters to 20 helicopters.
Yeah, there's definitely that part too, where it was kind of like, okay, how many helicopters... Like, I want to go back and count how many helicopters Kong destroys.
Because they only take like, the one boat.
They were all gone.
That's what I was thinking, Josh. They only had the one the carrier that had maybe 6 helicopters on it.
And even, I think when you see the boat, I'm like, could they even fit 4 on that helicopter? And like, cause I saw like the 10 of them in the sky as the last 2 were taking off from the boat. Like, where the frick did these other helicopters come from? But they get to the island, and then it seems like he like takes down 11 of them, but there's still like 6 that they can still have to be accounted for.
See, I think that's sort of like reverse engineered, where they probably went to it like, okay, we want Kong to do this, 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 and this against these helicopters. So we've accounted for 8 helicopters that he destroys in one fashion. But we still need 4 to survive for our main characters to hit the island and still be alive. So there you go. There's our 12.
Yeah. And I think, Ian, I think you brought it up earlier that like they gave like that full reveal of Kong too early. Mm-hmm. Like that, when the helicopters first are getting attacked, I actually kind of liked that. Oh, they arrive, they're starting to drop their charges and everything, and then it just cuts, and then it's just very serious. Like, we've got the record player on, we're dropping charges. Look at all the data we're getting. Death, stop. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I liked that because I liked that shot of the palm tree coming up out of nowhere from the distance and everything. But I think you're right, what they should have done, fine, give us the palm tree to take down number 1. Give us a hand sweeping across the screen that bats number 2 out. But then you could have developed a whole story where now you have maybe half the team, they're scattered, mm-hmm. and maybe you have half the team needing to convince the other half of what they actually saw.
Yeah.
What do you mean there's a giant ape? Are you
just
nuts?
rewrote a better movie than they did.
You know, that could have been a conflict rather than Samuel L. Jackson's only, like, primary intense revenge sub-story.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just rescue, it's revenge.
Agreed.
Just a little bit of a sidebar. Did you guys catch the hold on to your butts line?
Yes. I did. I loved that. I loved it. Yeah,
I was so glad they got that in there for him.
Yep.
I don't even know if he realizes it's his own Easter egg, but it's in there.
I think Samuel's a pretty smart guy. I bet you he knows.
I feel like it could be one of those things he did 20 years ago that he just forgets.
I don't know. That's a pretty significant line from that movie. Like, it's one of the lines from Jurassic Park you remember.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we do. I just don't know if he does. Just a paycheck for him.
That was Warner Brothers.
I understand, but these, guys like him who, especially now doing like the Avengers movies and things, he's probably meeting a lot more fans. How often do you think a fan walks up to him and says like, "Oh, hold on to your butts"? Like.
Now that you mention it, I really hope that's more often than not.
I do too. It's just same thing with like Billy D. Williams and the Colt 45. Like, they gotta get some shit for the stuff they've said in movies.
Between that and hello, what do we have here?
Exactly. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. If I'm looking at Samuel L. Jackson and just giving him "say what again," and you know, but it's. I would say he is aware. I don't think he didn't recognize that because it almost had the same inflection as it did in Jurassic Park too.
It
That's
was
true.
very similar.
Yeah. All right. Do you guys have anything else for the movie? I think the only thing I have next, I think, is sort of bleeding into the post-credit scene, and I feel like that's going to spiral out of control when we get there. So, anything else you guys want to talk about specifically Skull Island?
No.
Josh, Ian, anything?
I thought it was a little weird that no one cared that San was Asian, considering Nam was happening. I thought that was a really bold choice by the movie.
That's a good
She's
point.
VC. She's VC.
Especially Samuel L.
Yeah, if he just
Considering
came from
how
there.
his character felt about Nam.
Yeah. Also a good point. Yeah, that's something that could have been addressed in a writing.
Yeah, it could have made him I could have hated him more. Like, oh, you damn racist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely true.
Josh, you got anything else?
No, I think we pretty much hit everything. I guess I feel bad that it kind of became a bashing session when it really would be like overall recommendation. You know, sit down, watch it, enjoy it for what it is. It is entertaining. Make some popcorn,
we
get
can
some
come
extra
back
candy.
around
It's
to
good.
sort of like, final thoughts. If we want to give it a rating or something like that, we can hit that at the
Yeah.
end. See how
But
that
as
comes
far as
around.
the overall movie, yeah, we can move on. I think it beat that horse
Okay.
quite enough.
Yeah. All right. As I mentioned earlier, they're trying to craft and start connecting King Kong and Godzilla into their. As far as I can see online and stuff, they're calling it the MonsterVerse that these two
Yeah.
are coming from. Now, Godzilla was made a couple years ago, and that was before they decided to do this whole interconnected shared universe thing. So Kong is the first one that is officially part of this. That I guess is trying to set up all this shared monster universe stuff. So there is an end credit scene for Kong Skull Island that essentially has. I guess, Mike, did you end up seeing it or reading about it? Because you said you didn't stay, right?
I couldn't find anything detailed enough, so go ahead.
All right. I'm going to do my best to summarize. Ian and Josh, if I'm missing something, feel free to chime in.
Yep.
They have Brie Larson and Tom Hiddleston in like an interrogation room.
Yep.
And they're talking to the one-way mirror, basically saying, we understand there's no Kong. We're not going to tell anybody about the big monkey and stuff like that.
Yep.
And then the black guy and the Asian chick that work for Monarch come in and basically say that Kong isn't the only king out there, and they start showing still frames of, I think they were like cave drawings?
Yeah, cave paintings.
At best, yeah. It wasn't.
Okay. So it's they never tell you where they get these pictures from or what cave they found that saw these, but we definitely get a picture of Godzilla.
I got the impression they were from various places around the world.
Okay. So we definitely get cave drawings of Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, and Rodan.
Mm-hmm.
And the final shot, I think, is Godzilla facing off against King Ghidorah. Which, to me, is basically saying that the sequel for Godzilla is probably going to be that.
Probably.
Okay.
That'd be a good guess, I think.
Now, the thing that sort of confuses me is that King Kong is in the 70s. The Godzilla movie... What?
I said yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
So... Kong's in the 70s. Godzilla was in modern day, which would have been, I guess, 2014 when it was released.
Yep.
Sure.
So
yeah, they didn't
we've
say
got
different.
a definite time gap here. So I'm a little confused as to where we think Godzilla 2 will show up. Do we think that's going to be in the 70s with Kong? Do we think that will be another modern day movie?
I would say it's definitely modern day. If you catch the one very important line in this one is that Kong is not an adult.
True. Yeah. He's still growing or whatever.
Yeah, like he was the adolescent version or whatever. And so that gives him X amount of time to come to present when 2020 comes around and, Kong versus Godzilla happens.
Right.
So the movie in between could easily just take place now, or they could try and do it like a prequel to the other Godzilla, which wouldn't make any damn sense. Because...
And I think it's something that you just picked up on, that his, adolescent to adulthood is still growing. I didn't think of that before, but right, that still screws with your time. It screws with your timeline in terms of what are you doing with all these characters.
Yeah.
Are we to expect that when Godzilla versus King Kong comes around that we will not have Tom Hiddleston, Brie Larson, or any of the other characters because it's 30 to 40 years later?
Yeah, they're going to be 70 years old or something. If they're keeping them in that room to be a part of Monarch, and then Monarch shows up in the Godzilla sequel, which is present day. Not to mention, if they are part of Monarch now, why were they not in the first Godzilla? What the hell were they doing then?
Well, Monarch was, not them specifically.
Right. Like, you're led to believe that Brie Larson and Tom Hiddleston have been recruited by Monarch now.
Yeah.
So why are they not in the events of Godzilla?
Nothing says we need their actors specifically, but for perhaps I don't have a reason. I'm not going to try and figure it out. I'm not going to defend that. I'm just
do you think they'll be used in another sequel? Like, do you think we'll see them in Godzilla?
No.
Or do you think they're just going to save them for King Kong Godzilla?
I don't think we're seeing them in either.
I don't.
Then why have them in the after credits scene?
That's my point.
True. Well, I would say this: if you don't necessarily need every actor to sign up for franchises all the time anymore. I mean, Brie Larson is just about to enter the MCU herself. Tom Hiddleston has, chapter 4 or 5 for him coming out in Thor 3 this November. So, he's been a part of it. He's kind of on his way out of it at the moment. Like, not everyone has to be part of every single chapter of something they're creating. But, that said, it is really confusing as to what the motivations for including them in that scene would have been. You could have just as easily had just the geologists in the room talking about findings and look what we've just uncovered and we're seeing a pattern. You could have set it up in another way that didn't include Hiddleston and Brie Larson.
Right.
Because then, exactly, when they don't show up later because there's no rational reason that they would now, you're going to wonder, okay, so what the frick happened to them in the last 50 years of this story?
Right.
They were obviously, like you said, they were brought in. They're now a part of it all. But we're not supposed to care about them, so why was I told that they are in it from now on?
Yeah, I feel like, this is just overall impressions, but post-credit scenes are supposed to bridge the gap between movies, and this one I feel like is a lot more confusing than it needs to be, and how this is all going to fit together. Not to mention, I guess we never really talked about Monarch and their overall importance to what happened in Kong Skull Island and stuff like that, but this actually got me thinking, and correct me if I'm wrong, the movie opens with John Goodman and, I can't even think of the other guy's name, but the black guy he was with.
Houston.
Is that his name?
Houston Brooks.
Yeah, Houston. Corey Hawkins. He was on Walking Dead and some other stuff.
He was Dr. Dre in Straight Outta Compton.
Yes, he was.
But those guys are working for Monarch, and I think John Goodman basically says, like, this is our last expedition. Like, we are broke. If we don't come back with proof of this monster, Monarch is basically going under. Now, we're led to believe by the end of the movie they have proof of Kong, but everyone that survives decides not to say anything about it because they don't want to send an army to the island that then kills Kong, and then, the protector of this underground hollow earth thing is no longer there and all these monsters run free. So, to me, I feel like there's a logic gap between Monarch suddenly being funded out the ass for when Godzilla shows up, and they're able to capture and study these monsters in 40 years.
Only 3 people agreed not to say anything.
So you think, what, the army guy said something?
Oh, hell yeah, they have to, basically.
They couldn't just write that off in a report that some crazy shit went down, and I could see them
I
talking
don't think the army's that lax about losing that many people. Some shit happened.
I mean, like, they could talk about being attacked by shit, but not specifically talking about Kong. Like, just leave that off the report.
What attacked them? Like, they're gonna send people there to find out what happened if they won't tell them.
So maybe they confirm the existence of monsters, but not necessarily Kong? Is that why Kong stays a secret?
Some monsters are there, and they would send someone to find out about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're not going to ignore that loss of life in hardware.
All right. I could sort of buy that then. Yeah, because to me the logic wasn't working that suddenly, like, even after the movie, like, I don't know where Monarch was getting the funding.
They said, like, they denied Kong and stuff is they meant, like Brie Larson said she's going to tell the Russians. Mm-hmm. They just don't want other people to know. The army knows, the government knows, other people, normals, like us don't know.
See, I could have thought that was what Hiddleston and Larson agreed on that's why they saved Kong.
I mean,
Can I interject here, having not seen it?
Yeah.
Have you not seen this post-credit scene? Can I interject one thing?
Yeah.
Go for it.
There was one important piece of information in the post-credit scene: Godzilla versus King Rodan, or whatever
Ghidorah.
you said it was.
King Ghidorah.
King Ghidorah. That's your one piece of important information there, and you can probably ignore the rest of it because they're just going to wipe story on this because they screwed up story so royally to begin with already. They're going to be like, okay, Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, that's what we're doing. Let's do it. Move on.
You're probably right, but again, it just seems like another series of strange decisions that didn't need to be made the way they did.
Yes.
They could have achieved exactly that one main thing that you needed to take away. They could have achieved that 3 different ways that wouldn't have necessitated the last 7 minutes of discussion.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're building Monarch to basically be like the shield of this universe.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I get their build up to Monarch. It just, I don't know, like, it sounds to me like a clusterfuck, really. I mean, like, whoever, once again, I think this is another universe that needs a Joss Whedon. You know, they need somebody at the helm of it early on. You know, Kevin Feige, Joss Whedon, get people together in charge and say, okay, this is how things are going to play out, and have it, you know, different directors and everything, but under one general vision to organize what's happening.
Yeah.
And that's not what we have here. Because I mean, Godzilla, I actually enjoyed the rebooted movie. That was really good. And it just took a nosedive here. So I don't know.
Maybe they'll, with the Godzilla sequel, it'll be back to, the good feelings that we had about the first Godzilla from a few years ago, and then any lessons that they need to learn, they can iron them out by 2020. Well, also, if that's going to be 2020, they're going to be shooting that probably sometime next year, if not early, because it's going to be so effects heavy.
Yeah.
That they're probably going to be actually shooting it during 2018 and spending most of 2019, assuming it'll be like an early spring, maybe early summer release, that year as well. They'll spend most of 2019 doing the live action stuff and doing doing most of the special effects shots. So they, maybe only have like another year or so, year and a half to learn whatever lessons they need to. Because you gotta figure they're probably in the middle of production, the beginning stages of breaking ground, so to speak, on the next Godzilla sequel, because that's for 2019. So they're probably in actual physical pre-production now.
And I think that's probably a good point, good place to spin this off too. What do you guys think? Do you have any speculation or theories for Godzilla King of Monsters, which is the one we're expecting in 2019?
Well, I mean, they're going to be setting it up. They had like another King Kong reference Godzilla reference with John Goodman early on.
Oh, that's right. That's tied to like his backstory, I think.
With the boat, right? Like, so I read that the same way. Because at first I wasn't understanding if John Goodman was supposed to be the character that we see at the beginning that lands on Skull Island and then somehow, got rescued eventually, but then had to spend like 30 years of his life trying to convince people that it was real, etc. But yeah, so he makes that, is that what that was? He made the reference about like his boat went down. He was the only survivor.
Attacked by Godzilla, yeah.
Okay. The picture that he shows of the shipwrecked boat with the claw marks through the front, that was the boat he was on.
Mhm.
Ah, got it.
So
Like
yeah, he
that,
basically
like,
had first-hand contact with Godzilla and is the only survivor of that boat. So he's the only one saying that happened, that no one
and
believes
that
him.
there's monsters are real.
Yeah.
The original monster. The king of monsters, even.
You might be tempted to call him.
I mean, do you think we'll just get like a one-on-one battle with Godzilla and one other monster? Or do you think we're going to get all the monsters that were teased at the end of this one? Do you think we'll get that in the Godzilla sequel, or do you think they're saving some of those for the Godzilla King
I think
Kong
he
movie?
fights Gordira in the sequel, and then I think they're saving the rest for them to team up against.
Okay. Yeah, that's sort of what I was thinking.
Well,
Yeah.
they only have 4 cast members listed so far on IMDb. Millie Bobby Brown, 11
Oh, that's right.
from
Yeah.
Stranger Things, Vera Farmiga, and Ken Watanabe. Now he's listed as rumored, and now that could be interesting because he is presumably playing the same character that he did in Godzilla. Doesn't he die in Godzilla though?
No.
Did he survive?
Yes.
Okay, so that would make sense. I don't know if this is a coincidence or on purpose, but this is kind of interesting. The 4th person they have listed is Kyle Chandler, who was
I think I did hear
in Peter Jackson's King Kong
that.
as Bruce Baxter. So
He was the actor guy, right?
yeah. So I don't know if that's just like, I can't imagine that he's going to be playing any incarnation of the same, but at the same time, maybe they're going to throw us for a loop. Maybe this Godzilla will take place, in the late 1800s or early 1900s, where, at the point where, you wouldn't have mass photography and the ease, and simple ability to share information and images and all that so easily. And so that's why Godzilla, kind of still stayed as a secret for another 100 years until the 2014 film. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, that was sort of what I was thinking. Like, if they wanted to, the 40-year gap between Skull Island and the modern-day Godzilla, they could make a Godzilla sequel in that time. Just have it somewhere secluded on planet Earth, where no one's... Like, as long as he doesn't attack a city somewhere,
Yeah.
that could be denied and kept secret. It might not look good visually if he's not destroying buildings and causing mass destruction, but...
I wouldn't say not necessarily about wouldn't look good because it has to have destruction, but you've got to have stakes.
Yeah.
Godzilla, the only reason I care that Godzilla is fighting that thing is so that thing doesn't kill me.
That's fair. Yeah.
I also
other
think
than monster to monster, it loses my interest pretty quickly.
I also think that they'll keep it mostly modern, because if they go back in time, you lose a lot of scale, and that's something they've been very, intent upon.
Yeah.
Is this Godzilla is bigger than your daddy's Godzilla was? This King Kong's bigger than your daddy's King Kong was.
True.
And they want that frame of reference in there for scale. And
Yeah.
mention that would
people,
probably
it's
confuse
easiest
people.
to get with the skyscrapers and everything.
It'd probably confuse people trying to tell them the order in which to watch. Well, start with the first Godzilla, but then you gotta jump back to Kong, and then you gotta watch the second...
No, Brian.
Start with...
You're
Sorry.
messing up.
Start with Kong, that's right. Godzilla 2, and then Godzilla 1.
Yeah, you got to watch the true fan introduction. I think that's what they're going to do with Godzilla 2 now. It's going to take place late 70s, early 80s.
Do you have anything to go
If
on
it's
with
go-
that, or just because...
Well, it's going to have the Monarch crew finding him. I think they're all going to be in Godzilla 2.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
And they're
I
going to
can
be
see
hunting
this.
him down. It's a new adventure movie where we hunt down Godzilla, King of Monsters.
Oh, so
that's
that's
why we
the-
care about monsters being real, because he's the king of the monsters.
So the connective tissue is bringing the human characters we don't care about in this movie and taking them into Godzilla 2.
Yes! And then
Where
we don't
we
care about them there either.
Still won't
when they
care about
die.
them there. So
And then that
maybe
all sets up into the Mudos waking up in the late 90s. It's all there, man.
So maybe by the end of the trilogy, by the end of Godzilla versus King Kong, like maybe we'll learn 3 characters' names.
Maybe.
If they keep
That's a
using them
hard
over and
maybe.
over again, yes. If they beat us over the head with them, we might remember some names.
I mean, they could bring Cranston back then if we're doing a prequel.
Oh, good call.
Yes.
I would take that. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Who doesn't want
he
more
can play-
Bryan Cranston?
He could play an entirely different character. I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
He doesn't
I
even
wouldn't
have
care
to play
either.
the same thing. He could interact with some of the same people
I don't know.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
as a
Can't-
completely
He's the guy
different
you know.
person. I'm good with it.
Me too. I agree.
Just give me the Cranston.
All right, so I think now's probably a good point. We could talk about what we think or what we're expecting for Godzilla versus King Kong in 2020.
Not much.
I mean, we could theorize if like, you know, how the overall plot of the movie, like, do we expect a Batman v Superman type of plot of like, hey, we're gonna fight each other. Oh,
And then
we're
we both
okay
have
now.
mothers, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I was hoping not, but yeah, now I see it happening since the post-credits scene that I hadn't seen. And now I know about. Yeah, I kind of feel that's the route they're gonna go.
But so what we have to think about though is they've established in this that Kong, some of his decisions are deliberate and there's a rationale to them. He's a
Yes.
protector. He is trying to deliberately, it's not just I'm a creature and I'm trying to survive myself. There are these other things, they happen to be human entities that, you know, I have involved myself with. To some degree, didn't it also seem, though, that was part of the motivation that they presented in Godzilla?
Yes.
That it was there, yes, it was there to take on those creatures when it realized that those creatures would be awaking. But it's not just because those creatures are my mortal enemy. It's because I somewhat serve as this protector of other things against those creatures.
Yeah, I
And
think they
whether
tried to play it in Godzilla as like they were disrupting the natural order of
Yeah.
things, so he was there to set it right.
So it's maybe like Godzilla isn't necessarily the human protector in the way that Kong sort of adopted this civilization on his island, but what reason is the clash going to need to be there? Because just because they're both there with each other doesn't necessarily mean that they have to view one another as a threat to themselves or the things that they're trying to protect. So what's
Sure.
going to be the reason that they feel that they have to eliminate each other?
It could be as simple as like, you know, the same reason the Batman and Superman should have talked it out. You're going to get the same thing with Godzilla and King Kong, where maybe Godzilla is following a loose monster that somehow leads him to Skull Island, and in the verge of trying to take out this creature, suddenly when King Kong shows up, Godzilla's there tearing shit up on his island,
mhm.
and Kong immediately goes after Godzilla, thinking he's the threat when he's not.
See, I'm thinking with Godzilla being this protector of the natural order, he's gonna get tired of humanity and us fucking it up. His whole plan. He's gonna come after us and just start taking out LA and whatever. And then like fucking, John C. Reilly's kids could be like, oh fuck, my dad's monkey needs to be here. We're gonna go to Skull Island and bring him to LA to fend off Godzilla. And that's the movie.
Well, let's
And
all
then they team up though because
no.
Mothra shows up and starts poisoning the planet and the people. So then their interests collide and they take out Mothra. But that's when Mechagodzilla shows up and that's when shit gets real.
It just spirals out of control.
They just start throwing monsters at random. It makes no sense. A human hasn't been on screen for the last 4 hours, but you're still sitting there watching it.
I'm not gonna lie, an equal part of me wants to see that movie.
Yes.
Yeah, your pitch has us sold, I think. I would
Yeah.
watch that movie.
And let's remember, it's like 1973, and John C. Reilly's kid is like 20 years old. No, more than that. He's been on the island for what, 28 years? So that kid's almost 30.
Yeah.
That kid
Dude,
grows
look
up to
it.
be Ken Wantabe.
So, and they're like, how do they address that stress?
The mailman.
Well,
I
but
was
we've
gonna
seen
say,
him.
you know.
He's like very
true.
obviously Anglo-Saxon, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do see him. Cosmetic surgery.
So, like, it's like 1973. The dude is like almost 30 years old. If we follow timelines, and this takes place after the 2014 Godzilla, that's another 40 years. So he's almost 70 years old.
You know, maybe he's the Bryan Cranston character.
Okay. All right, I'm with
Like
you.
Bryan Cranston plays him, or he plays Bryan Cranston?
Yes, that's his recast.
I
There
mean,
you
either
go.
or. Well, let's go either way.
Just put some aging prosthetics on Bryan Cranston, and exactly, he's the 75-year-old son of John C. Reilly's character in the year 2020, and he needs to convince people to get back to Skull Island to bring back the, protector of the people to fight Godzilla.
Because, I mean, again, do you think like something like that needs a payoff? Like, almost like I feel like if they were going to do the son reveal of John C. Reilly, that it almost had to be someone familiar.
Yeah, I agree.
Like Will Ferrell?
That would have been fantastic.
Like, it was the weird part for me with that reveal of his kid. It was nice because I guess it was basically the credits. But it felt like they were really trying to get this nice heartwarming feel, like to sum it all up.
Right.
But I was like, I didn't need that. I didn't
Yeah.
care. I didn't care that he saw his kid.
He's the only one that gets a character arc, but it wasn't even that good of an arc.
But he was in it from the very beginning, so they had to give it to him.
Yeah, they had to bookend with him.
I mean, it made me want a hot dog and a beer at the end there. I did leave the theater like, where can I get a hot dog and a beer?
Where are the cubbies at?
Yeah, I'm sort of spinning to the Godzilla King Kong debate. I'm a little surprised you guys aren't going at each other for the King Kong Godzilla debate, because I figured this is where it was going to happen.
I mean, what's a god to a king? There's a god, then there's a king. I don't know why we'd have a conversation.
Well, honestly, I'm kind of deflated is that I don't see the battle as actually playing out to a finish right now. Because, as we said, it kind of feels like they're going to team up, and that kind of disappoints me. Because then this debate will never end with, Kong using some sort of tool with basically anything around him and just jabbing it through his skull, and the match is over. Tool usage. Tool usage. I mean, Kong could pick up a tank, stick his hand in, and anything.
Godzilla has these claws that just go through things. If he's gonna stick a tank,
he has
through his
T-Rex
skull,
arms.
Godzilla could just scratch
T-Rex
him.
arms.
I saw 0 T-Rexes in this movie too. I want to point that out. I was disappointed. Disappointed.
I agree.
No,
They did kind of tease at that though, where he did kind of almost do the jaw rip thing on the skull.
I was waiting for that.
Thing. Yeah, I thought it was about to happen, and it was like, nope, okay, they had him do it a different way. All right, fine.
I feel like you hear it start to crack. Like, I was waiting for it to go.
Yeah.
Which, admittedly, I will say, as brownie points for them, the way that he ends up killing that thing was pretty spectacular.
Yes.
Oh, with the propeller.
Yes.
Well, yeah, not just that, but utilizing that, but also Brie Larson goes in to the thing inside his hand, and then he just rips
out its guts.
Yeah, because its tongue is still ripped around his arm, so he just yanks the whole thing out and just essentially rips its throat out from the inside out.
But doesn't hurt Larson,
But she was cradled in his comfort palm.
Yeah, he's real soft.
Comfort palm.
I mean, there's a lot of things that you're missing about Kong that are going to tip the scales in his favor.
Scales again.
Well, brain, for one. He's much, much smarter. Mammalian brain, reptilian brain, it's not even close.
Did you see him use that propeller in that chain?
Oh my god, yes.
Someone mentioned it.
He's almost to the point of evolution of using tools, so he has that going for him.
Or that tree that he turns into a baseball bat.
Or the one he turns into a javelin.
That was cool. That was a cool shot. I forgot about that, where he just then takes his hand along the tree and just shreds the branches off because he's going to use it as a bat. That was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's critical thinking that he's able to do that Godzilla does not display. But the other big one we have here is called opposable thumbs, which gorillas kind of do have going on there, obviously. He's much more able to do stuff with his hands. I don't know.
That's what she said.
Well, I can do a lot with my hands. That threw me completely off track.
Sorry.
Brian, you just derailed your own show.
I know I did. Romano's not here. Right? Somebody's got to do it. Opposable thumbs, Mike. Opposable thumbs.
I was getting somewhere, and it's gone now. Oh, the other thing is he's an adolescent. We also don't know how big Kong is actually going to be.
Or Godzilla.
No, we don't. I mean, true. We don't have enough information, and they're probably going to end up fighting together. So...
Well, let me ask you this, Mike, because in Batman v Superman, yes, they fought. Yes, they team up at the end. But when they fought, do you think there was a clear winner?
Yes.
Okay, I think we could get the same thing in Kong and Godzilla.
Well, I mean, who do you feel the clear winner was? Because, I mean...
It's clearly Batman.
Yeah, I'm saying Batman.
I was going to say Batman wins.
Right.
And Batman's definitely the underdog there, so watch out, Ian. Please, seriously. Godzilla's got to watch out. The underdogs come through in everything.
They're both Warner Brother properties.
Oh, crossover with Batman and Superman.
Maybe
Batman wins.
That's what they end up having to fight is like Brainiac.
or Gorilla Grodd.
Yes.
That's the crossover. There you go. Kong becomes Gorilla Grodd. But I don't know. It's not going to happen, and the debate will live forever. I do think.
I mean, we have one creature that was damaged by human weapons, and we have another creature that's not even affected by humans. Doesn't even know we exist.
What's your point?
If Kong can be taken down by us, Godzilla would wreck his shit.
Why?
He's a god for a reason. Samuel L. Jackson almost killed Kong. No one almost killed Godzilla. 0 people did that. 0.
How many?
Okay.
One man almost took down the king.
All right.
Took down the
would
god?
you argue?
No
No, hold
one.
on. Wait. So you're arguing that this reptilian beast,
Yes. That was survived nuclear
its
weapons.
power.
Yes.
Forget survived nuclear weapon. Its power is nothing against the human mind, or is way far greater than the human mind, and we would never figure out how to actually be able to kill it.
Over the course of a Godzilla movie, we did not.
Okay, over the course of a single Godzilla movie, we did not, but we also didn't
And
try
for
for half
one
of that
King Kong
movie because it
they
was
figured
helping.
it out. They figured it out in one Kong movie.
They
They
didn't
had
kill
no
him?
issues killing him.
Fire lakes.
Fine.
Yeah, I was
Fire
going to say,
lakes.
they used napalm.
Yeah, it works really well in Nom.
What's your point? I'm saying that
What?
the human mind is what got to Kong, is he's not as smart as humans are, but he's a hell of a lot smarter than Godzilla.
No, yeah, he's not nearly as the basic strength Godzilla has. This is a silly argument to be having. I just don't understand it.
Gentlemen.
One can be taken down by humans, one can't.
Boys,
There's a clear power gap.
The real winner is going to be us, the viewers.
Are we? I came out of that feeling.
I don't know about that after this last movie. I feel like I'm going into this coming out with simply the hoping chance that King Kong wins.
So, Mike, you are strictly, like we've established, you are rooting for King Kong in this, but you're coming out of a King Kong movie not sure of his chances?
I just don't think the fight's going to happen.
If they label it,
I think
like
there's
it's
going to
being
be
titled right
a
now,
fight.
Godzilla versus King Kong, they will be fighting.
Yeah, I think there will be a fight, but I honestly think that you may get, a fight interrupted prematurely. Because I don't think you can have a clear winner in a King Kong versus Godzilla movie where they're going to team up in the end that has a clear winner.
Well, I mean, that was sort of
Because,
my point. You're not going to have one kill the other. I don't think that's going to happen. But I do
If
think
it
you could have a clear
incapacitates.
winner.
Yeah, all it takes is 30 seconds. So I think they're going to fight for at least 30 seconds and we'll have a clear winner.
okay.
You're right, Mike. 15 seconds. He could probably do it in 15. I'll hold it back 10. I'll give you 10. Godzilla would probably
Okay.
take in 10.
It's going to take Godzilla like a whole half an hour to swim from the ocean to the beach just to get to Godzilla or King Kong in the first place. So
A god ain't going to a king. The king's coming to the god. We've been over this.
oh, okay. So
But what do you foresee? So it takes him a half an hour to get there. How do you foresee Kong utilizing that time to his advantage?
He's gonna make a bunch of
he's
bats.
going to build traps.
He's gonna have a kryptonite spear, perfectly attuned to stab him through the heart.
I got nothing. Like he's gonna build traps. He's gonna use tools. He's gonna There's
Why is he gonna build? Why does he know Godzilla's coming?
how does he? Do you see how tall he is? At that kind of height,
He's
you would
underwater.
see
He can't see into the water.
Godzilla creates a tidal wave when he shows up.
Tidal waves naturally occur in nature, so now Godzilla's an expert at the ocean? That is absurd, sir. Absurd. He is not an oceanographer. He is a goddamn ape.
Well, but at the same time,
He's gonna know what something's happening.
if
He
King
barely
Kong,
did this.
if King Kong doesn't know that Godzilla is on his way to Skull Island, presuming that's where he's heading, what reason does Godzilla have to go to Skull Island on his own anyway? Why would he be going there in the first place?
Like
Godzilla?
I think we covered that where he's like Godzilla's actually chasing a different monster to Skull Island.
He doesn't even care about Kong. He's so below him.
they end up on Skull Island. Kind of how like they were he was chasing the
Mutos.
Mutos through the Pacific and then into Vegas, all the way through Vegas and San Francisco and everywhere.
Right.
Perhaps
okay. So,
the path of the next one goes through.
So, if those are flight creatures, then Kong would have some semblance of a heads up.
Oh, it may be very well the case that those creatures show up and attack Skull Island, and Godzilla shows up on Skull Island to eradicate them because that's his natural instinct.
Well, let me ask you guys this:
do it.
Like they establish in this movie about the Hollow Earth theory, about things that could basically just come out of the ground at will, whatever they want to create.
Like Gears of War.
Yeah. Is Skull Island the only place that does that? Like, are we expecting this to be the only gateway through for these monsters to come through, or are we thinking they could show up wherever?
I assume that was the point of like the after credit scene to show up. It happens other places. They don't get real specific into it.
Okay.
But that's why we had that. So it'd be weird if they all just came to this one island. That was the gate to hell.
Well, that's what I mean. That's why I figured, like, if everything's going to come from there, then that would make logical sense why Godzilla could end up on Skull Island to fight King Kong.
But he would have already came from there. He would already have been there and left.
Oh, you're saying Godzilla came up from that same place?
Well, if he did, I just mean if that's the only place, because Godzilla's been around since at least the 50s, we know.
Yeah.
The 40s. So he would have already been there. Destroyed all the Skull Walkers, so they wouldn't have been in this movie. He had to come from somewhere else.
Yeah, I got the impression that idea that they had about that, that it's like these pockets are like scattered, among, like all over the earth. They're not like concentrated in a certain area. But wasn't it? I mean, I do got to say, it was a little weird that the island they were on, Skull Island, was not particularly big, but somehow there was enough landmass there that it had this like very deep, ginormous hollow hole in the mantle of the earth for several of these types of creatures to be able to come up through. Like with Godzilla, would that really work? Because he's in the ocean, so you have to go down to the ocean floor first, then presume that there's these hollow points under that, and at that point, I mean, you're getting so far under the surface of the earth that, like, you're saying these things are almost existing at the core.
Well, that's assuming Godzilla came out in the ocean. Like,
True.
Assuming he had to grow, like, he could have came out of Skull Island when he was small, just kind of made his way to the ocean and grew there.
True, and I'm not getting the impression that they're saying that every single thing originated from this, hollow entrance point in Skull Island.
Yeah.
That there are these other areas around the earth where these points exist, but, yeah, I just don't know how they're going to, I feel like they're going to have to do a lot of, like, backwalking into kind of like retconning things that they thought sounded good for this story
Yeah.
that were supposedly attributed to all these giant creatures, and how are they backing into that?
See, I think you're missing the point where they're just gonna ignore it.
Yep. There you go.
If you remember that they're not going to talk about it at all, it makes sense.
I doubt the writers will have it. Like, no one's gonna watch this and be like, okay, we gotta keep those now. They're just gonna write their own different movie.
Yeah.
The only thing that matters for King Kong vs. Godzilla is that you put King Kong in it. I don't think they're gonna draw anything from this movie.
That's true. We keep trying to compare everything to the MCU and how everything is interconnected and breadcrumbs from one movie that lead into 3 movies later. Like, not everybody is going to do that.
This is like Freddy vs. Jason. You just put them in the movie.
I agree.
All right, I might use this just to spin off into some other little discussion that I was thinking of. Before I bring it up, I want to emphasize this is in no way confirmed. This is just a hypothetical discussion. But if it turns out to be true in a few years, we'll look like geniuses.
Okay.
The MonsterVerse of Godzilla and King Kong is happening because the shared universes are such the rage, and at the moment that they want to put all these characters together. Legendary owns Godzilla and King Kong. That's why they can put them together, and that's why it, get the green light to work. Now, there's another property that Legendary owns that is getting its own sequel set to release in 2018 that could, if they wanted to, be combined in the MonsterVerse because Legendary owns it, and if they want to bring it into the fold, they could. Does anybody know where I'm going with this?
Nope.
I feel like you mentioned this briefly last week, but you did not expound upon it. And I can't remember what
I
you
actually
said.
don't remember if I did. But Legendary owns Pacific Rim.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
we did
last
talk.
week.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
talked about this.
Could we get, after Godzilla Kong, that they need to
No.
put something in there to make it better, make people come back and see another team-up shared universe movie? Could we get Pacific Rim with Godzilla and King Kong?
I think what we said last week is it just doesn't work with the Pacific Rim timeline. But if you wanted to take Pacific Rim's themes and kind of stuff, you could like force feed it into this. But
Yeah.
with how Pacific Rim itself was, it doesn't fit with the King Kong Godzilla universe.
No.
I mean, Pacific Rim is all about like portals opening and stuff coming through. For all we know, it could go the other way. Pacific Rim robots could go through a portal and end up in Kong Godzilla world.
Are you saying the timelines are going to converge?
That's your theory. I love your theory because I'm going to use it now. Yeah, that could happen.
I would love it if this just becomes T3 and we got timelines converging everywhere and we get Pacific Kong Rim Genesis ice. I would love that.
Think about it. If you want to reach, we'll say that these Hollow Earth theories, all they're really confirming is that stuff is coming up from beneath the surface of the Earth.
Yeah,
And it might
you
be
could-
flat.
which is I
You
did
could-
think Pacific Rim like immediately when they started talking about that.
Right. You could just frame that around, well, they're not actually coming from inside the Earth, they're coming from a portal underneath the Earth.
That aliens are sending them here to like harvest us. Is that? Yeah. But then we send our robot back through it, and then we're in the alien world, and then we send it through another portal, and we're in the Kong King Godzilla universe.
I mean, if they want to blow it up to sheer like craziness,
Oh, could you imagine if they made a one of those fucking Jaegers, but it was Mecha Godzilla and they sent it through?
I'm
I
in.
would watch that.
Now I'm in. You lost me with all this until you said a Jaeger is Mechagodzilla or Mecha Kong even. Like, either one, I'm in.
I feel like that's the only way that if they put Mechagodzilla or something on screen, like that
It's a
has
Jaeger.
it's the only way it makes sense is if it's part of Pacific Rim, right?
But they have to have 6 pilots.
The
They
whole
can't
cast
handle
that
that
they
power
didn't
amongst
use
2
properly
people.
in this movie, they just put them all on the head of a Jaeger that looks like Godzilla.
Or have
Oh.
make a Jaeger that is essentially a mecha Samuel L. Jackson, which would fit. He wants his revenge.
Yeah, that's true. If you can't get it in human form, we'll just make him a robot.
Does anybody have any Tylenol? Oh, wow.
So you guys don't like that idea? You don't think that would work, or if you'd even want to see that if it happened?
I don't want to see thed timelines converge into such a muddled mess that the X-Men universe makes sense.
That's a good bar to go by.
Yeah, touche.
Oh, man, my brain's hurting.
All right, we'll wrap it up before Mike's head explodes. Just, I guess, final thoughts for Kong. We'll bring it back to Skull Island. We'll wrap it up. Any final thoughts for the movie? And then if not, we'll just sort of maybe end with like a out of 10 rating.
I just want to bring up again, we're talking about a creature called Kong, whose parents were killed by Skullwalkers, and Godzilla would wreck the Skullwalkers, ipso facto would wipe out all Kongs. Throw 6 Kongs at him, and he'd take him out in 2 seconds.
Are you just going through the bullet point stuff that you had for Godzilla taking on King Kong that you
I'm
haven't
just
used
saying,
yet?
it's so absurd that this conversation's happening. I've said it before, I'll say it again. This is the worst thing we've ever talked about.
Okay.
I would have rather have watched Apocalypse Now. That's all I'm saying. This was a horrible Vietnam movie.
The confident man works in silence. I'm still confident.
Fair enough.
I just like going to the movies.
What was that, Josh?
I just like going to the movies.
I watched Trainspotting after this. I really enjoyed that.
I've never seen that. I gotta watch that because I know that sequel's coming out soon.
Yeah, T2's this month.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would watch it, Josh. You would like that. At least I think you would.
I have a copy from the library, just trying to find time.
Oh, okay, there you go.
All right, so do we want to wrap it up with
Yeah.
just ratings? I guess out of 10, we'll just go around and say what we thought of King Kong or Kong Skull Island.
I'll go first. I will give it a 6. And that's not a bad 6. It's not, like I said, for all the relentless crap we gave it, if you want to be entertained for 2 hours, this will do it. This is fine. It's going to suffer not as high of a score because of more technical filmmaking analysis, but in terms of entertainment, I'll give it a 6.
5.
Okay. Ian?
4. Like, it looks pretty, but I'm never going to rewatch this. I have no inkling to ever want to see this movie again. The only reason I would rewatch this is to tell Mike why Godzilla is going to wreck the shit out of King Kong. And even then, I don't care that much to rewatch this film. And I use that term loosely here.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning towards a 5. And I think more on the lines with Ian. I don't know if I'd rewatch this. It might get more replay value after I see the other movies that come out in this MonsterVerse. Like if Godzilla 2 connects to Kong Skull Island better, or if Kong vs. Godzilla starts connecting the dots a little bit better, it might give me a reason to come back and watch it. But
you just be like, oh, look how much better these movies have gotten.
yeah, you set the bar low there, and then everything goes up exponentially since then, and then you're okay.
The Fantastic Four plan.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, one thing I was going to ask too. I guess it's safe to say that compared to other Kong movies and iterations, that maybe this is lowest on everyone's list. Like compared to like Peter Jackson Kong or the classic Kong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, don't forget, there's a lot of crappy, no-name King Kong movies that were made.
Yeah, just the same way that there were like a lot of crappy Godzilla ones.
Yeah.
Like Godzilla vs. this, Godzilla vs. that. There were some iterations of Kong as well.
Right. Okay.
I don't know. I saw the other King Kong there, especially the Peter Jackson version. I saw it as apples and oranges. You know, Peter Jackson set out to make a wonderful modern version of what his favorite movie in the world was, that, you know, wanted him to be a filmmaker and all that, with modern effects and special effects and all that, and he did it. So it was a different approach, it was a different reason, all that. So I kind of see it as apples and oranges. They both achieve different things.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, I think that's it for this one. I'm not real sure what we'll cover next week. Oh, I guess just heads up to anybody that wants to watch it. Iron Fist drops tomorrow. Well, at the time we're recording this is tomorrow.
Yeah, and I can't
so by
watch.
the time this is out,
I don't work until like 4:30, but I can't watch any of it because Sarah and I work all like I can't start it without her because I'll just end up rewatching it. And then we work all freaking weekend because of goddamn Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
And so it's not going to be till like at least Monday till we get the crack into it. But then we might go see Beauty and the Beast or Belko Experiment probably Monday. One of them Monday, one of them Wednesday. So I don't know when the frick we're going to get to it.
Yeah, I don't even know how soon we'll try to talk about it. It was just an idea. If people, I guarantee you we won't be able to talk about the whole thing. We might be able to do like the first 3 episodes or something like we did with Cage.
Yeah.
But I don't know, the headlines for it haven't been very kind, so...
No, they have not. They were kinder than us, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm curious to see if it's that bad, I guess. It's something we could talk about. Oh, and then I actually started watching Legion.
How's that been?
Well,
I'm 3 episodes in. It's intriguing enough, like, it's weird as fuck, but the mystery of it is intriguing enough that I want to see how it plays out.
Okay.
They do a good job of, like the whole setup is whether this guy is actually crazy or if he has powers, and you're still playing with that idea the whole time, and how how they test him to see, like, test his powers and what he's capable of. All that stuff I find really interesting. So yeah, with that, again, just options. It could be something. If we don't talk about it next week, it's something I definitely want to cover at some point. Does anybody else watch it? I know, Ian, you talked about wanting to watch it. Did you ever start?
I'm gonna start it soon. I just haven't yet.
Okay. Yeah, if you start watching it, let me know. We'll see if maybe we'll get together and try to talk about that for a little bit. Other than that, I don't know. It could come down to just geek news and trailers if there's nothing too exciting going on. But other than that, if you enjoyed the show, please stop by iTunes. You can leave us a 5-star rating and review there. And be sure to share, subscribe, and favorite the show. As always, you can find us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/bryguysuperfriends. Or you can search for bryguysuperfriends. That'll show up the page. And you can send us some questions, comments, topic suggestions, any of that stuff you want to. You can email us at bryguysuperfriends@gmail.com or bgsuperfriends on Twitter. Any of that stuff works. And on behalf of Ian, Josh, Mike, and myself, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you guys next time. Hello and welcome to another episode of Bry Guy and his Super Friends. Well, we will do our best to talk about Kong Skull Island. See, I knew it. I knew I was going to fuck. That's only like halfway through, too. I know I have more words to get through, and it's going to fuck me up again.
Just say, sup guys, BG and the Super Friends. Here's Mike Bradley.
You know, this is why I don't try to do like the
Super
intros
Friends.
like this, because I'm like, fuck this. It takes too long. I fuck it up all the time. It's not worth the effort.
Send it to me. I'll do it.
All right, so if somebody else does this intro part, am I picking up at the host, like I'm your host, Brian, after that?
You're not the host
Yeah,
after
that's
this.
Yeah, really.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Bry Guy and his Super Friends, where we will do our best to talk about Kong Skull Island before the show spirals out of control into an abundance of insults, name-calling, and yo mama jokes.
Stepping in, I'm your host, Brian Labick. Joining me for this one-way ticket to Skull Island is someone who will hopefully keep I can't even do the fucking other part. I should just said your name. Should just said your name.
Fuck. You want to send this one out this week, Brian?
I probably should. It's not even worth it anymore.